Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in at Infidelity Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Shattered Trust. Tom Sullivan gripped the steering wheel of his truck, knuckles white as he pulled into the Red Door Bar and Grill's parking lot. The text from Rebecca glowed on his phone. Working late tonight. Pick me up at midnight. He decided to surprise her with dinner plans, arriving 2 hours early. The construction dust still clung to his boots as he stepped out of the vehicle. 12 hours overseeing the children's hospital renovation had left him exhausted, but he'd pushed through, determined to make time for his wife. The ring on his finger caught the streetlight's glow, a simple band that represented what he thought was an unbreakable bond. The bar's neon sign buzzed overhead as Tom approached the entrance. The bouncer, Frank Tank Wilson, gave him a quick nod before mysteriously disappearing around the corner. Something about Tank's behavior felt off, but Tom dismissed the thought. The usual Thursday night crowd filled the main area. Tom scanned the bar, expecting to see Rebecca serving drinks. She wasn't there. Maria Gonzalez, the head bartender, avoided his gaze when he approached. "Hey Maria, where's Rebecca?" Maria wiped the same spot on the bar 3 times before answering. She stepped out back for a break. Tom's combat-trained instincts sparked to life. Maria's hesitation, Tank's disappearance, pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving. He headed toward the back exit, passing Sam Richardson at a corner table. Rebecca's childhood friend grabbed his arm. "Tom, wait." He shrugged off her grip, pushing through the heavy metal door into the alley. The scene before him stopped him cold. Rebecca, his wife of 5 years, had her arms wrapped around Jamie Cooper's neck. The bar owner's hands roamed places only a husband should touch. Their kiss wasn't just passion, it was familiarity. This wasn't their first time. Well, Jamie drawled, spotting Tom. "Look who showed up early." Rebecca spun around, her lipstick smeared. No shame crossed her features, only annoyance. "You weren't supposed to be here yet." "Obviously," Tom replied, his voice carrying the deadly calm that had served him well in Afghanistan. "How long?" "Long enough," Jamie smirked, sliding brass knuckles onto his right hand. "Rebecca's been telling me all about your problems. The nightmares. The panic attacks. She needs a real man, not some broken soldier." Tom's military training kicked in, assessing threats and angles. Jamie had size and youth, but Tom had survived 3 tours as a scout sniper. The alley offered limited mobility, and Jamie's stance telegraphed his intentions. "You don't want this fight," Tom warned. "Actually, baby," Rebecca purred, stepping behind Jamie. "He does. We both do. You've been holding me back, controlling everything with your military precision. Always so proper, so controlled. Jamie shows me passion." "Passion?" Tom's laugh held no humor. "Is that what you call stealing from our business account?" Rebecca's expression flickered, the first crack in her confident facade. "How did you—" Jamie's brass knuckles interrupted the conversation, connecting with Tom's temple. The sucker punch staggered him, but years of combat training kept him upright. Blood trickled down his face as he squared off against his attacker. "You see, Tom," Jamie taunted, circling, "Rebecca and I have plans. Big plans. The Red Door is just the beginning. Once you're out of the picture, we'll have everything, your business, your assets, your life insurance." Should have read the policy changes more carefully. Tom blocked Jamie's next swing, countering with a precise strike to the larger man's throat. Jamie stumbled back, gasping. But he wasn't alone. 2 figures emerged from the shadows, bouncers Tom recognized from the bar. "Finish him, baby," Rebecca urged, her voice thick with anticipation. "He's been holding me back for years." The fight turned brutal. Tom's military training met raw street violence. He broke one bouncer's nose, dislocated another's shoulder. But numbers and brass knuckles eventually overwhelmed skill. As blows rained down, Tom locked eyes with his wife. "If I make it through tonight," he promised, blood staining his teeth, "you'll live to regret this." Rebecca's laughter cut deeper than any punch. "You won't make it through tonight, darling." "That's the point." A familiar voice pierced the night. "Police! Step back." Officer Denise Martinez stood at the alley's entrance, weapon drawn. Tom recognized her from his self-defense classes at the community center. The attackers scattered, leaving Tom broken but alive on the concrete. "Jesus, Tom," Denise muttered, radioing for backup while checking his pulse. "What happened?" Through swollen lips, Tom managed 2 words. "Get Mike." As consciousness faded, he heard Rebecca's voice arguing with Jamie around the corner. This wasn't supposed to happen. The camera was disabled. Tank promised. Tom's last thought before darkness claimed him wasn't of pain or fear. It was a cold, calculating promise to himself. They thought they'd killed the soldier in him. They'd just awakened him instead. Chapter 2: Recovery and Revelation. The steady beep of hospital monitors marked time in Tom's room at UPMC Presbyterian. 3 weeks had passed since the attack, each day bringing new revelations about the depth of Rebecca's betrayal. The physical pain of multiple facial fractures and broken ribs paled against the psychological wounds. Mike Patterson sat in the visitor's chair, his detective's notebook open. They'd been friends since high school, before Tom joined the Marines, before Mike pinned on a detective's badge. Now, he watched his friend's face, swollen and bruised but set in dangerous determination. "Talk to me about Lieutenant Walsh," Tom said, adjusting his position despite the protest of his ribs. Mike glanced at the door before answering. "Derek Walsh is deep in Cooper's pocket. He's marking your case as a random mugging gone wrong. The security footage mysteriously malfunctioned that night. Convenient. There's more." Mike leaned forward, voice low. "I've been digging into Cooper's past. 3 ex-wives, Tom. Each one signed over their assets before the divorce. Sound familiar?" Tom's sister Rachel, who'd flown in from Boston Law School, entered with a stack of financial documents. Her heels clicked against the floor as she approached the bed. "It gets worse," she announced, spreading papers across Tom's meal tray. "Rebecca's been bleeding the business account dry. Small transfers, just under the notification threshold. Look at the dates and amounts." Tom studied the numbers, his tactical mind already forming patterns. "Where did the money go?" "Into the red door," Mike answered. "She's been buying into Cooper's business, piece by piece. They've been planning this for months, brother. If you had died that night, she'd have inherited everything," Tom finished. "The business, the life insurance, all of it." Rachel gripped her brother's hand. "We can fight this, Tom. I've been researching precedents." "No." Tom's voice carried the same authority that had commanded Marine units. "Not yet. Tell me about Jamie's family connections." Mike exchanged glances with Rachel before continuing. "The Coopers are old money in Pittsburgh. 12 establishments across Pennsylvania, all legitimate on paper. Jamie's father, Richard Cooper, runs the empire. Word is he's not happy with Jamie's lifestyle choices." A knock interrupted them. Anna Martinez, Officer Denise Martinez's sister, entered with Tom's medication. Unlike other nurses who treated him with clinical detachment or pity, Anna's eyes held understanding. She'd survived her own battles. "Your wife's here," Anna announced quietly. "Want me to tell her you're resting?" "No." Tom's face hardened. "Let her in." "Mike, Rachel, give us a minute." Rebecca entered as the others left, designer purse clutched like a shield. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the calculation in her eyes as she assessed Tom's condition. "You look terrible," she offered. Brass knuckles tend to do that. She perched on the edge of the visitor's chair, maintaining distance. "The police say it was a random attack. Such a dangerous neighborhood. That alley." "Cut the act, Rebecca." Tom's voice could have frozen flame. "We both know what happened. What I want to know is why." "Why?" She laughed, the sound brittle. "Because you came back from war broken. Because you buried yourself in work and control. Because Jamie makes me feel alive. And the money? Our business account?" Rebecca's smile turned cruel. "Insurance. Women need security, Tom. Jamie understands that. He has plans, vision. All you have is your rigid military discipline and your pathetic little construction company." "Had," Tom corrected. "Past tense. You've made sure of that." "I'm filing for divorce," she announced, standing. "My lawyer says I'm entitled to half of everything. Consider it payment for dealing with your PTSD episodes all these years." Tom watched her straighten her expensive blouse, bought with his money, he now realized. You should have killed me in that alley, Rebecca. It would have been cleaner. There's still time. She reached the door, pausing. Jamie has friends everywhere, Tom. Accidents happen. Take the divorce settlement and disappear. It's your best option. After she left, Anna returned to check his vitals. She found Tom staring at the ceiling, his expression unreadable. I know that look, she said softly. I saw it in the mirror after I left my ex-husband. You're planning something. Your sister, Tom replied. She saved my life that night. Why was she there? Denise patrols that area regularly since he started teaching self-defense classes at the center. Anna adjusted his four. The community looks out for its protectors, Tom. Remember that. Mike and Rachel returned, finding Tom sitting straighter despite his injuries. She threatened me. He informed them, using Jamie's connections as leverage. Rachel began pacing. We can use that in court. No courts. Tom's decision was final. They have a system rigged. We do this my way. Your way. Mike raised an eyebrow. The Marine way? The smart way? Tom's military training showed in his precise words. Rebecca and Jamie think they're playing chess, but they've never seen real strategy, real warfare. They expect me to break. Instead, I'm going to take everything, legally, methodically, completely. You'll need help, Rachel pointed out. I'll need information first. Tom turned to Mike. Everything you can find on the Cooper family. Their businesses, their weaknesses, their secrets. Especially Richard Cooper. What about Rebecca? Anna asked from the doorway. Tom's expression would have terrified his enemies in Afghanistan. Rebecca wants to play games with a scout sniper? Fine. She just started a war. She doesn't know how to fight. The room fell silent as they absorbed his words. Outside, Pittsburgh's night life continued, unaware that a highly trained Marine was planning a campaign more precise than any military operation. Rebecca and Jamie had tried to destroy Tom Sullivan, the husband. They were about to meet Tom Sullivan, the warrior. Chapter 3. The First Move. Catherine Kate Walsh's office embodied its owner's personality, elegant, expensive, and armed for bear. Law degrees and courtroom victories covered the walls like battle trophies. Tom sat across from her desk, still bearing the marks of his hospital stay, but radiating contained power. Your wife tried to have you killed, Kate stated, reviewing the case files. We can't prove it in criminal court, but there are other battlefields. I'm familiar with alternative warfare, Tom replied. That's why I'm here. Kate's lips curved. As Lieutenant Walsh's estranged sister, she knew exactly how corruption worked in Pittsburgh. Your wife's divorce filing is aggressive. She wants half of everything, claiming your PTSD made you an absent husband. She helped me start the construction company, Tom acknowledged. Used that to justify accessing the accounts. Smart play on her part. Kate pulled out another document, but not smart enough. I had my investigator look into Jamie Cooper's pattern. 3 ex-wives, all following the same script. Seduce, isolate, drain assets, discard. Tom leaned forward despite his healing ribs. Tell me about the exes. First was Sarah Mitchell, 2015. Owned a successful catering business. Jamie convinced her to invest in his first solo venture. She lost everything in the divorce. Second was Diana Chun, 2018. Real estate agent. Same pattern. Third was Michelle Rodriguez, 2020. Personal trainer. Notice any similarities? Successful women with liquid assets, Tom analyzed. Professional skills that could benefit his business. Like Rebecca's accounting background. Exactly. Kate's smile turned predatory. But here's where it gets interesting. All 3 signed remarkably similar divorce agreements. Almost like they were coerced, Tom finished. Jamie's police connections. My dear brother's fingerprints are all over the Rodriguez case. Kate's voice held old anger. Derek thinks his badge makes him untouchable. Family dinner conversations are tense. Tom absorbed this information, adding it to his mental strategy map. What about Jamie's father? Richard Cooper? Kate pulled up another file. Old school businessman. Built Cooper Hospitality Group from one bar into a regional empire. Catholic traditional, big on family legacy. And terminally ill, according to my sources. Terminal? This was new information. Timeline? Doctors give him 2 years maximum. Jamie stands to inherit everything. Kate studied Tom's expression. Unless something changes the old man's mind about his son's character. Tom's phone buzzed, a text from David Rodriguez, his Marine Corps intelligence contact. "Excuse me," he said, reading the message. "My source found something interesting about the Red Door's head bouncer. Tank Wilson?" Kate made a note. "The one who disabled the security camera? Apparently, Tank has a gambling problem. Owes money to some dangerous people." Tom's expression shifted subtly. People who might be willing to sell his debt to the right buyer. Kate set down her pen. "You're not thinking of simple divorce strategy, are you? This is about dismantling Jamie's entire operation. Jamie and Rebecca try to kill me and take everything I built." Tom's voice carried the cold precision of a sniper selecting a target. "I'm going to return the favor. Legally. Completely. Using their own methods against them. It won't be cheap," Kate warned. "Or quick. I have resources they don't know about. And time." Tom stood, controlling his wince at the movement. "Rebecca thinks she married a simple construction worker with PTSD. She forgot what I did in the Marines. And what was that exactly? I specialized in removing threats. Precisely. Permanently. Legally." Tom reached for the door. Rebecca and Jamie wanted to play predator. They never considered they might be hunting something higher up the food chain. Kate's laugh followed him out. "This is going to be entertaining." "Oh, and Tom? The bartender you mentioned, Maria Gonzalez? Have her call my office. Sexual harassment claims are a specialty of mine." Tom nodded, already planning his next move. In the elevator, he called David Rodriguez. "By Tank Wilson's dead," he instructed. "All of it. And David? Make sure he knows who owns it now." The pieces were falling into place. Rebecca thought she'd wounded him. Jamie thought he'd broken him. They were about to learn the difference between a husband's anger and a warrior's vengeance. Tom Sullivan hadn't survived 3 tours by being predictable. The war had begun, and this time, Tom had chosen the battlefield. Chapter 4. Building the Board. Philadelphia's business records showed Thomas Sullivan had relocated his construction business out of state. Rebecca and Jamie celebrated at the Red Door, champagne flowing as they toasted their victory. Neither noticed the quiet man in a maintenance uniform who watched from 3 tables away, memorizing their habits and patterns. Tom's small apartment, 3 blocks from the Red Door, bore little resemblance to the home he'd once shared with Rebecca. A wall of surveillance photos and documents covered one room, each connection marked. He'd learned in Afghanistan that intelligence gathering preceded any successful operation. His burner phone buzzed, Mike Patterson calling from his secure line. Richard Cooper's medical records came through, Mike reported. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Doctors give him 18 months tops. After that, Jamie inherits the whole Cooper empire. Unless we change the old man's mind about his son. Tom studied a photo of Richard Cooper leaving Sunday Mass. "How's our friend Tank Wilson doing?" "Desperate. Bookies are threatening his family. He'll crack soon." Tom checked another phone, this one dedicated to his Marine Corps network. David Rodriguez had assembled a team of former squadron mates, now working in private security and corporate investigation. They monitored the Red Door 24/7, documenting each violation and indiscretion. The door clicked open. Anna Martinez entered, still in her nurse's scrubs from her hospital shift. Their relationship had evolved from caregiver to confidant, her own experience with betrayal giving her unique insight into Tom's campaign. Maria Gonzalez called. She announced, setting down her bag. "She's ready to talk about Jamie's harassment." Tom nodded. Maria's testimony would be crucial. "Get her in touch with Kate Walsh. We need everything documented properly." Rebecca's been promoted to general manager, Anna added, her voice tight with disgust. "She's already making enemies among the staff. 3 bartenders quit last week." "Perfect." Tom pulled up surveillance photos, showing Jamie entering the Red Door's office after hours. Disgruntled employees make excellent witnesses. Any connection to the sexual harassment complaints? 2 of them. Both women. Anna's expression darkened. Jamie has a pattern. He promotes attractive female staff, then makes advances. If they refuse, Rebecca writes them up for performance issues until they quit. Tom's hand tightened on the phone. "Document everything. Names, dates, witnesses. Kate will need it all." A text from Sam Richardson lit up his phone. J Plus are fighting again. He's drinking heavily. Threw a glass at a customer. Jamie's cracking under pressure, Anna observed. Your campaign's working. Tom's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held dangerous satisfaction. Phase 1 was destabilization. Make them paranoid, off balance. Now we start dismantling their support structure. He pulled up an email from Kate Walsh detailing their legal strategy. Small claims, health code violations, noise complaints, death by 1,000 cuts. Each investigation cost money and credibility. What about Rebecca? Anna asked softly. She chose her side. Tom's voice carried no emotion. She'll fall with him. A knock interrupted them. David Rodriguez entered, carrying a thick file. You're going to want to see this, brother, David said, spreading documents across the table. Jamie's been cooking the Red Doors books for years. And guess who helped him structure the fraud? Caroline Cooper, Tom answered, examining the papers. Richard's wife. She's been embezzling from Cooper Hospitality Group, David confirmed. Jamie helps hide her theft. She protects him from his father's scrutiny. But with Richard dying, they'll need to cover their tracks, Tom finished. Which makes them vulnerable. Anna studied the complex financial documents. How did you get these? Margaret Wilson, David replied. Richard's private nurse. She's been watching Jamie destroy his father's legacy for years. Wants to see justice done. Tom absorbed this information, adding it to his mental battle plan. Set up a meeting with Margaret. And David? Give me everything on Richard Cooper's Catholic faith. His charitable works, his church connections, going after the old man's conscience. Jamie's trying to ride out the clock until his father dies. Tom's voice carried the cold precision that had made him a legendary sniper. We're going to make sure Richard Cooper's last act is disinheriting his son. Anna touched his arm gently. You're not just destroying Jamie's inheritance. You're taking everything he values. He tried to take my life. Tom's expression showed no remorse. Fair exchange. The burner phone buzzed again. Another text from Sam. Tank Wilson spotted at St. Michael's Church. Same mass time as Richard Cooper. Tom allowed himself a small smile. Tank's gambling debts had made him controllable, and his guilt made him useful. Soon he'd accidentally encounter Richard Cooper after mass, his conscience heavy with secrets about Jamie. The pieces are moving, David observed. They are. Tom studied his wall of evidence. Jamie and Rebecca think they've won. They don't understand. The game is just beginning. Chapter 5. The Cooper family feud. Margaret Wilson adjusted Richard Cooper's morphine drip with practiced care. After 3 decades as a private nurse, she recognized the signs of a man wrestling with more than physical pain. Your son called again, she mentioned carefully. Shall I tell him you're resting? Richard Cooper's gaunt face tightened. Jamie can wait. I need to review these audit reports, Margaret. Something isn't right with the numbers. Margaret shared a glance with Tom, who sat quietly in the corner pretending to be a visiting financial advisor. Their plan was working. Richard's suspicions about the company's finances were growing. Mr. Cooper, Tom spoke up, these discrepancies in the bar revenues, they're systematic. Someone with intimate knowledge of the business structured this fraud. Jamie wouldn't. Richard's protests sounded weak even to his own ears. Caroline handles most of the books now. Your wife and son seem quite close, Tom observed neutrally. Richard's expression darkened. Too close sometimes. The way she defends him, no matter what he does. A knock interrupted them. Tank Wilson entered, still wearing his church clothes. His accidental encounters with Richard after Sunday Mass had become regular occurrences. Mr. Cooper, Tank stammered, guilt weighing his words. I need to confess something. About the night Thomas Sullivan was attacked. Richard straightened in his bed, instantly alert. The Sullivan assault had bothered him. Jamie's explanation about a random mugging never sat right. Go on, son, Richard encouraged. Tank's confession poured out. The disabled cameras, Jamie's brass knuckles, Rebecca's laughter as her husband bled. By the end, Richard Cooper's face had turned to stone. There's more, Tank added. The assault complaints Jamie buried. The women he harassed. I helped cover it all up because he knew about my doing. Enough. Richard's voice cracked like a whip. Margaret, call my lawyer. Now. Tom watched the scene unfold, his expression neutral. Phase 2 was proceeding exactly as planned. Later that evening, Caroline Cooper burst into Richard's room, her expensive perfume failing to mask her panic. "Richard, darling, Jamie says there are rumors about the company finances," she began. "Complete nonsense, of course. Sit down, Caroline." Richard's tone stopped her cold. "Explain these transfers to offshore accounts. And while you're at it, explain why you covered up my son's assault on Thomas Sullivan." Caroline's composure cracked. "I did it for us, Richard. Jamie needed protection. He needed discipline." Richard slammed his hand on the side table. "I built this company on integrity. Now I find out my son is a thug and my wife is a thief. If you just listen." "I've listened enough." Richard's voice turned cold. "My lawyer is rewriting my will. Jamie will receive a modest monthly stipend, nothing more. The company goes into a trust, managed by a board of directors." "You can't do this." Caroline's shriek echoed through the room. "Jamie is your only heir." "Not anymore." Richard's expression showed no mercy. "I'm also establishing a foundation for abuse survivors. Margaret will manage it." Tom slipped out during Caroline's subsequent meltdown, his phone already buzzing with messages. Jamie would learn about his disinheritance soon. The real chaos was about to begin. In his apartment that night, Tom reviewed surveillance photos of Jamie's increasingly erratic behavior. The bar owner's drinking had escalated, his temper becoming more volatile. Tank's confession broke Richard, Anna observed, studying the reports. The old man really didn't know about Jamie's violence? "He suspected," Tom replied. "But suspicion isn't proof." Tank gave him confirmation from someone he trusts, a fellow Catholic seeking redemption. "And the evidence of Caroline's embezzlement?" "Margaret's been collecting proof for years." Tom's satisfaction showed in his voice. "She watched them corrupt Richard's legacy. Now she's helping us save it." A text from Sam lit up his phone. Jay just trashed his office, screaming about betrayal. "Or trying to calm him down. They're unraveling," Anna noted. "Phase 3 begins tomorrow," Tom stated. "The board of directors meets to review the new trust structure. Jamie will try to contest the will. Can he win?" Tom's expression turned predatory. "Kate has arranged a surprise for the probate hearing. Jamie's ex-wives are testifying about his pattern of fraud and coercion." Anna studied his face. "You're enjoying this?" Jamie and Rebecca thought they were apex predators. Tom's voice carried no remorse. "They're learning what it means to hunt something trained to kill." The next morning, Richard Cooper signed his new will with steady hands. Within hours, Jamie's lawyers were filing challenges, but Tom had anticipated every move. "Your brother can't help him this time," Kate Walsh informed Tom by phone. "Derek's too busy dealing with internal affairs. Anonymous tips about his corruption have them very interested." Tom hung up as David Rodriguez arrived with fresh intelligence. "Jamie's drinking at the Red Door," David reported. "Rebecca's trying to damage control, but the staff is talking. They know the empire's crumbling." "Good." Tom studied his wall of evidence. Time to accelerate their fall. Chapter 6, The Unraveling. The Red Door's books lay open on the boardroom table, each page telling a story of fraud and mismanagement. Jamie Cooper sat with his head in his hands while Rebecca paced behind him, her designer heels clicking against the floor. "This audit is a witch hunt," Jamie's lawyer protested. "My client inherited these accounting practices. From his father?" Board member William Chun raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, because our forensic accountants traced the irregularities to exactly when Mr. Cooper took over the Red Door's operations." Rebecca touched Jamie's shoulder. "Baby, we can explain." "Shut up." Jamie shrugged her off, bourbon on his breath at 10 in the morning. "This is your fault. You promised you could handle the books." The board members exchanged glances. This was the son Richard Cooper had tried to warn them about. "Given these findings," Chin continued, "the board has no choice but to terminate your employment, Mr. Cooper. The Red Door will be sold to minimize further liability." "You can't." Jamie surged to his feet. "This is my family's company." Was another board member corrected. "Your father's will was quite clear. The trust has full authority." Jamie's fist slammed the table. "I'll fight this." "Lieutenant Walsh is under investigation himself." Chin cut in. "I doubt he'll be much help." Rebecca watched her dreams crumble as Jamie stormed out. Their carefully constructed plan had fallen apart, and with it their future. Back at the Red Door, she found Jamie destroying his office. "We'll fix this," she insisted, dodging a thrown whiskey bottle. "We still have my inheritance from Tom's company." Jamie's bitter laugh stopped her. "You mean the company that mysteriously folded last year? Wake up, Rebecca. We're finished." "No," she protested. "The Red Door is profitable. We can buy it ourselves." "With what money?" Jamie slumped in his chair. "The board froze my accounts. The stipend barely covers my car payments." Rebecca's mind raced. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Tom should have been broken, defeated. Instead, "Tom," she whispered, "this feels like him." "Your ex?" Jamie scoffed. "He's in Philadelphia, remember? This is my father's doing. And Caroline's betrayal." But Rebecca remembered Tom's promise that night in the alley. The cold in his voice. She'd forgotten what he was, not just a construction worker with PTSD, but a Marine Corps sniper trained to dismantle targets. The next blow came through Maria Gonzalez. The bartender's sexual harassment lawsuit named both Jamie and Rebecca as defendants. More employees came forward, describing a pattern of abuse and retaliation. Miss Gonzalez has extensive documentation, Kate Walsh informed the board, including text messages, witness statements, and security footage that somehow survived the Red Door's frequent camera malfunctions. The board's decision was quick. The Red Door would be sold immediately. Rebecca watched helplessly as potential buyers toured the property. Each time she tried to make an offer, financial institutions declined her loan applications. Her perfect credit had mysteriously developed problems. The final buyer remained anonymous, working through shell companies. Rebecca only learned the truth when Maria Gonzalez was promoted to general manager. The new owner values experienced staff, Maria informed her with cold satisfaction. "You'll be returning to basic bar shifts. Slowest hours only." Jamie's spiral continued. Banned from all Cooper Hospitality Group properties, he took to drinking in dive bars, ranting about conspiracies. "We should have finished him," he slurred one night. "Made sure he died in that alley." Rebecca stared at her fallen lover, remembering Tom's strength even as Jamie beat him. She'd mistaken his control for weakness, his precision for limitation. The Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board's investigation destroyed Jamie's last hopes. Years of violations resulted in massive fines. As the license holder, he was personally liable. "I can't pay this," he told Rebecca, showing her the figures. "I'm ruined." She looked around their apartment. Once luxury, now all they could afford. "We'll survive. We still have each other." Jamie's laugh held no humor. "Wake up, Rebecca. You were just part of the con. Like all the others." "What others?" "The ex-wives," he spat. "Dear old Dad's lawyer found them all. They're testifying about my pattern of fraud and coercion. It's over." Rebecca watched him pack a bag that night, knowing he wouldn't return. Like Tom, she'd been a mark in someone else's game. Unlike Tom, she'd never seen it coming. Alone in the emptying apartment, she finally understood. Tom hadn't just survived their attack. He'd used it as a weapon, turning their own methods against them. Jamie's empire, her dreams, their future, all destroyed with the same calculated precision they'd tried to use on him. The Red Door sign came down the next day. Rebecca stood across the street, watching workers prepare for renovation. The new name was already painted on the windows, Sullivan's. Chapter 7, The Return. 3 years had transformed the Red Door into Sullivan's. The renovation crews had finished their work, replacing the grime of corruption with clean lines and professional management. Tom adjusted his tie as he approached the entrance, timing his arrival precisely. Rebecca stood behind the bar, relegated to the slowest shift of the day. Her designer clothes had been replaced by a standard black uniform, her manicured nails chipped from hauling ice bins. She froze when Tom entered, recognition hitting her like a physical blow. "Table for 2, Tom stated, his voice carrying across the hushed room. Maria Gonzalez, now the general manager, approached with professional courtesy. "Mr. Sullivan, your usual booth is ready." Rebecca's hands trembled as she arranged bottles, aware of Tom's presence like a sniper's laser sight between her shoulder blades. 3 years of questions crystallized into sudden understanding. The anonymous buyer, the strategic demolition of Jamie's life, the calculated mercy of keeping her employed. "You're looking well," Tom said as he reached the bar, his tone conversational. "Better than Jamie, from what I hear. How is he enjoying life in his car?" The glass Rebecca held nearly slipped from her grip. "You did all this? How?" "I made a promise that night, Rebecca." Tom's words carried the weight of inevitability. "Unlike you, I keep my promises." Memories of that alley crashed through Rebecca's mind. Her laughter as Jamie's brass knuckles connected, her cruel dismissal of Tom's pain. She'd thought him weak then, bound by morality and law. She hadn't recognized the tactical assessment in his eyes, the strategic mind planning even as blood poured from his wounds. Sam Richardson watched from the yoga studio stairs, her own guilt a familiar companion. She'd chosen loyalty to Rebecca over warning Tom, a decision that haunted her throughout his campaign of revenge. Now she taught classes in the renovated upper floor, each session a reminder of choices and consequences. "Your usual drink, sir?" Rebecca managed, her voice barely steady. "Scotch, neat. And whatever Anna's having when she arrives." The mention of his new relationship twisted in Rebecca's gut. Anna Martinez had everything Rebecca had thrown away. Tom's trust, his protection, his calculated precision turned to building rather than destroying. Other staff members watched the interaction, those who knew the full story sharing knowing looks. They'd seen Rebecca's fall from general manager to basic bartender, watched her dreams of ownership shatter against Tom's implacable revenge. "I never thought," Rebecca started. "That's your problem." Tom cut her off. "You never thought beyond the immediate goal. 3 years of planning, Rebecca. 3 years of watching you and Jamie celebrate your victory while I dismantled everything you built. The business account transfers? Traced and documented. Jamie's fraud? Exposed. The Cooper family empire? Restructured. Lieutenant Walsh's protection? Neutralized." Tom's voice carried no emotion, just facts delivered. "You taught me about betrayal, Rebecca. I taught you about consequences." Rebecca gripped the bar for support as the magnitude of Tom's revenge became clear. "You destroyed everything." "No," Tom corrected. "I let you destroy yourselves. I just made sure there was nowhere to hide, no one to protect you, no escape from the weight of your choices." The door opened as Anna Martinez entered, her scrubs exchanged for elegant evening wear. She kissed Tom's cheek, the casual intimacy a stark contrast to Rebecca's isolation. "Your drinks, sir," Rebecca managed, placing them with shaking hands. Tom watched her retreat, no triumph in his expression. He'd promised consequences that night in the alley. Promises made in blood required repayment in full. Chapter 8, Justice Served. Mike Patterson savored the weight of handcuffs in his pocket as he approached Jamie Cooper's last refuge, a cheap motel on Pittsburgh's outskirts. 3 years of watching his best friend execute the perfect revenge had taught him patience. "Police! Open up!" Jamie's disheveled face appeared as the door cracked open. The former bar owner had traded tailored suits for worn jeans, his confident swagger replaced by desperate paranoia. "What now?" Jamie demanded. "Haven't you people taken enough?" Mike held up a warrant. "James Cooper, you're under arrest for investment fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit attempted murder." "Attempted? What are you talking about?" "The night you tried to kill Thomas Sullivan." Mike's satisfaction showed as he continued. "We have sworn statements from multiple witnesses, including Tank Wilson and your stepmother Caroline." Jamie's face contorted. "Caroline? That treacherous—" "She made a deal," Mike interrupted, enjoying Jamie's realization. "Full immunity in exchange for everything she knows about your illegal activities, including those offshore accounts you used to hide her embezzlement. You can't prove any of this." "Actually, we can." Mike produced another document. Caroline kept records. Tank kept evidence. And Tom? Tom kept his promise. Understanding dawned in Jamie's eyes. "Sullivan, this whole time? 3 years of watching you dig your own grave." Mike began reciting Jamie's rights. "He just made sure you couldn't climb out." Across the street, Tom and Anna watched the arrest unfold. Other officers arrived, executing simultaneous warrants at Jamie's storage units and safety deposit boxes. Caroline's information was comprehensive, Anna noted. Fear does that, Tom replied. She saw the evidence against her, recognized the pattern from Jamie's ex-wives. Self-preservation won out over loyalty. They watched Jamie being placed in a police car, his protests fading into defeated silence. Was it worth the wait? Anna asked softly. Tom thought about the nights of planning, the precise manipulation of events, the cold satisfaction of watching his enemies destroy themselves. They tried to kill me and take everything I had, he replied. I returned the favor, just more efficiently. Later that evening, Kate Walsh called with updates. Jamie's lawyers are scrambling, but the evidence is solid. Between Caroline's records and Tank's testimony, he's facing serious time. The attempted murder charge? Probably won't stick, Kate admitted. But the financial crimes will. The feds are particularly interested in those offshore accounts. Seems Jamie was helping others hide money too, including some people who don't like attention. Tom absorbed this information with clinical detachment. Lieutenant Walsh? My dear brother's career is over. Internal Affairs found exactly what we knew they would. He's looking at charges of his own. The pieces had fallen exactly as Tom had planned. Jamie's protection network had crumbled, his allies turned against him, his own arrogance becoming the instrument of his destruction. Chapter 9, New Beginnings. Sullivan's thrived under its new management. The darkness of the Red Doors past transformed into something productive. Tom surveyed the renovated space, noting how the support group meeting spaces blended seamlessly with the bar's public areas. Rebecca approached his table, carrying his regular order. 3 months had passed since Jamie's arrest, each day a reminder of her role in her own downfall. Your drinks, sir, she said, her voice carrying the weight of understanding. And as usual as well. Thank you, Rebecca. Tom's politeness held no warmth. How are those night classes going? I hear business management is quite challenging. She hurried away, fighting tears. The night classes had been his idea, a requirement for continued employment. Each lesson in proper business practices reminded her of how she'd helped Jamie defraud Tom's company. Tank Wilson, now head of security, watched her retreat. His own redemption had come through confession and restitution. Rebecca's came through daily reminders of her choices. The Foundation Board meets next week, Anna mentioned as she joined Tom. Margaret Wilson has wonderful ideas for expanding the support services. Tom nodded, satisfaction in his expression. Richard Cooper's final act, creating a foundation for abuse survivors, had transformed his son's instrument of corruption into a force for healing. The Cooper Hospitality Group approved the renovation contracts, he added. All 12 locations will be updated, starting with the original bar from 1955. Paying for it with Jamie's hidden accounts? Poetic justice, Tom agreed. His attempt to destroy me funded the restoration of his father's legacy. They watched Rebecca serving other customers, her movements mechanical. She'd lost everything. Her lover, her dreams of ownership, her reputation. Most importantly, she'd lost the good man she'd betrayed, forced to witness daily his transformation of her weapon into his triumph. The regulars often questioned why Tom kept his ex-wife employed. They didn't understand that true victory wasn't in Rebecca's suffering, but in turning her betrayal into strength. The bar that had nearly been his death had become a symbol of resilience. Your family still won't speak to her? Anna asked. Rachel made that clear at our wedding. Tom recalled his sister's fierce protection throughout his recovery. They understand the price of betrayal. The wedding had been small, but significant. Mike stood as best man. Denise Martinez gave away the bride, and Rachel ensured the legal documentation was flawless. Rebecca had watched from behind the bar, serving drinks to celebrate a happiness she'd discarded. Sam's yoga classes are full, Anna mentioned, changing subjects. The studio space was a good investment. Tom agreed. Sam Richardson had transformed her guilt into action, using her skills to help abuse survivors rebuild their strength. Her loyalty to Rebecca had cost her once. Now it served a better purpose. The security cameras caught Rebecca's reflection as she closed up that night. Tom had ensured they were always functional now, recording each moment of her reduced circumstances. The name, Sullivan's, lit up the darkness, a permanent reminder of consequences. Later in their home, Tom held Anna close. The last pieces of anger had melted away, replaced by satisfaction. He had a new life, a woman who understood strength, and a future built from the ashes of betrayal. "You never considered forgiving them?" Anna asked, already knowing the answer. "Forgiveness implies debt," Tom replied. "I didn't want their apologies. I wanted justice." Sometimes justice means ensuring people face the full weight of their choices. The regulars at Sullivan's might wonder about their owner's motives, but Tom understood the power of persistent consequences. Rebecca's punishment wasn't the loss of money or status, but the daily reminder of the strength she'd mistaken for weakness. As Pittsburgh's nightlife pulsed around them, Tom and Anna planned their future. The bar that had almost ended his life now funded programs helping others rebuild theirs. Sometimes, he mused, the best revenge isn't just destroying your enemies. It's using their weapons to forge something stronger. The security camera recorded Rebecca's final tasks, her reflection caught in the windows as she faced another night alone. The name Sullivan's glowed above her, a permanent testament to the Marine Corps lesson she'd learned too late. Some people aren't prey, no matter how vulnerable they might appear. Some people are predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Epilogue, 10 years later. The Cooper Hospitality Group's annual charity gala filled Sullivan's main hall with Pittsburgh's elite. 10 years had transformed the former Red Door into the cornerstone of a different empire, one built on rehabilitation rather than corruption. Tom Sullivan moved through the crowd with military bearing, his presence commanding respect without effort. At 42, his hair showed traces of gray, but his physique remained Marine sharp. The scar above his temple, legacy of Jamie Cooper's brass knuckles, had faded to a thin line. The expansion numbers exceeded projections, William Chun, now CEO of Cooper Hospitality Group, reported. The Sullivan Foundation support programs operate in all 12 locations now. Tom nodded, satisfaction in his bearing. The foundation, created from Richard Cooper's final act of redemption, had grown beyond its original scope. What started as support groups for abuse survivors now included job training, addiction recovery, and veteran services. Maria's management training program produced another successful class, Chin continued. 3 graduates already managing their own locations. Maria Gonzalez, who'd risen from bartender to director of operations, approached with the latest financial reports. Her transformation of the Red Door's toxic culture into a model of professional management had become a case study in business schools. "The Pittsburgh Business Times wants to interview you," she informed Tom. "They're doing a feature on ethical business transformations." "Have them talk to Anna," Tom replied. "She runs the foundation now." Anna Martinez Sullivan had expanded the survivor support programs across Pennsylvania. Her own experience with abuse, combined with Tom's strategic thinking, created a network that caught people before they fell too far. The sound of breaking glass interrupted their discussion. Rebecca, still tending bar after a decade, had dropped a tray. Her hands shook as she cleaned up, avoiding Tom's gaze. Time had marked Rebecca differently than the others. Her beauty had hardened into something brittle, her movements carrying the weight of endless consequences. 10 years of watching her ex-husband transform her instrument of betrayal into a force for good had taught her lessons no prison could match. She asked about management training again, Maria reported quietly. "Same answer as always," Tom responded. "She can attend the classes, but she'll never manage a Sullivan's location. Some betrayals don't earn second chances." The lesson wasn't lost on the staff. Tom's ruthless streak, once demonstrated in his 3-year revenge campaign, now showed in his absolute standards. Redemption was possible, but trust once broken stayed broken. Across the room, Sam Richardson's yoga studio had expanded to occupy the entire second floor. Her classes, specially designed for trauma survivors, had a 6-month waiting list. The guilt of staying silent about Rebecca's betrayal had transformed into a mission to help others find their voice. "The Veterans Program needs more space," Sam mentioned as she joined them. Mike's police contacts keep sending new referrals. Michael Patterson had risen to police commissioner, his reputation for absolute integrity built on the ruins of Lieutenant Walsh's corruption. The former lieutenant had died in prison 2 years into his sentence, his protection network scattered by the investigation Tom's revenge triggered. Rachel's firm can help with the expansion permits, Tom suggested. Rachel Sullivan's law practice specialized in protecting abuse survivors and veterans. Her experience helping Tom dismantle Jamie Cooper's empire had shaped her career. She'd recently won a landmark case against a business using Jamie's old tactics of seduction and fraud. "How's Jamie doing?" Chin asked, dark humor in his voice. Tom's expression remained neutral. "Still in medium security. The fraud charges stuck, even if the attempted murder didn't." His appeal was denied last month. Jamie Cooper's fall had become a cautionary tale in Pittsburgh's business community. His prison sentence, while technically for financial crimes, carried the weight of all his sins. The former playboy who tried to murder his lover's husband now shuffled through prison halls, his arrogance replaced by bitter regret. Caroline asked to contribute to the foundation again, Anna added as she joined them. Tom considered Richard Cooper's widow, who'd chosen self-preservation over loyalty to her stepson. Her immunity deal had saved her from prosecution, but she lived in reduced circumstances, her embezzled wealth reclaimed by the company. Same answer as before, Tom decided. She can donate, but her name stays off everything. Richard's legacy deserves better. The mention of Richard Cooper drew their attention to Margaret Wilson, the former private nurse whose testimony had helped destroy Jamie's inheritance. Now in her 70s, she served on the foundation's board, ensuring Richard's final wishes shaped its mission. "Tank's running the security training program at 3 locations now," Maria reported. Frank Tank, Wilson had transformed his redemption into a career helping others escape bad choices. His confession in Richard Cooper's hospital room had started Jamie's downfall. Now he trained security staff to protect the vulnerable rather than enable abuse. The gala continued around them, Pittsburgh's elite mixing with program graduates and success stories. Tom watched it all with the same tactical assessment that had guided his revenge, measuring angles, evaluating outcomes, ensuring mission success. "The new manager at the original Cooper location is doing well," Chin mentioned. "Interesting choice, hiring Jamie's first ex-wife." Sarah Mitchell, Jamie's earliest victim, had rebuilt her catering business through the foundation's programs. Now, she managed the very bar where Jamie had started his pattern of seduction and fraud. Her success represented everything Jamie had tried to destroy. The documentary crew finished filming yesterday, Anna added. "They're calling it Sullivan's Law, breaking the cycle of abuse in the service industry." Tom nodded, remembering the interview they'd wanted. He'd given them 10 minutes of cold facts, his military service, the attack, his calculated revenge. The producer called his lack of emotion chilling. Tom called it precision. The night wound down, staff efficient in their closing routine. Rebecca moved through her tasks, the weight of a decade's consequences visible in her posture. She'd asked once, 5 years in, why Tom kept her employed. "Because watching you serve drinks in my bar hurts more than prison would," he'd replied. "Because seeing your dreams die slowly teaches more than a quick execution. Because you thought 3 years of helping me through PTSD made me weak. Now you have 10 years of seeing exactly what I am." Now she lived in a small apartment 3 blocks away, her attempts to find other work mysteriously failing. The service industry network Anna had built served multiple purposes, helping survivors and ensuring betrayers face persistent consequences. Tom's construction company, reorganized under new management, had grown into a major contractor. Their specialty became renovating distressed properties into community service centers. Each project carried the precision Tom had learned as a scout sniper: assess, plan, execute with zero margin for error. The Sullivan Foundation's latest initiative focused on prevention, teaching people to recognize predatory patterns in business and relationships. They used Jamie and Rebecca's story as a case study, showing how abusers target perceived weakness, not understanding they're actually poking dragons. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette called it redemption through reconstruction, Anna mentioned, showing Tom the latest article. He disagreed with their term. This wasn't redemption. It was reconstruction using the enemy's own weapons. Jamie had tried to kill him and take everything. Tom had taken everything from Jamie and built something stronger. The security cameras tracked Rebecca's movement as she closed up, their constant recording a reminder of that night 10 years ago when disabled cameras enabled betrayal. Now they watched her serve drinks in a bar bearing her ex-husband's name, trapped in a prison built from her own choices. Tom and Anna's marriage had deepened over the decade, built on shared understanding of survival and strength. Their daughter, named Margaret after the nurse who helped destroy Jamie's empire, would never know weakness masked as kindness. The Cooper Hospitality Group's board of directors still marveled at Tom's transformation of their company. They'd expected him to destroy it in revenge. Instead, he'd rebuilt it stronger, using Jamie's poison to create medicine. As they left the gala, Tom spotted Tank Wilson training new security staff. The former bouncer had learned the hard way. Strength without honor destroys itself. Now he taught others to recognize predators wearing business suits and brass knuckles. The name Sullivan's glowed against Pittsburgh's night sky, visible from the alley where Jamie and Rebecca had tried to kill a broken Marine. 10 years later, that alley hosted self-defense classes taught by Denise Martinez, now a police captain herself. Rebecca watched them leave, as she had for a decade. Her punishment wasn't the lost wealth or status. It was watching Tom Sullivan, the man she dismissed as damaged, weak, and controllable, build an empire from the ruins of her betrayal. The regulars still wondered why Tom kept his ex-wife employed. They didn't understand that some lessons required daily reinforcement. Rebecca had taught Tom about betrayal. He'd spent 10 years teaching her about consequences. In his office overlooking the bar, Tom reviewed the Foundation's latest expansion plans. The Cooper family's original bar from 1955 would become their flagship training center. Richard Cooper's legacy, nearly destroyed by his son's arrogance, would help prevent future predators from mistaking military precision for weakness. Was it worth the wait? Anna asked, echoing her question from 10 years ago. Tom thought about Jamie in prison, Rebecca serving drinks, Lieutenant Walsh dead in disgrace, and Caroline living in reduced circumstances. He thought about the Foundation's success stories, the lives rebuilt, the predatory patterns broken. They tried to kill a Marine Scout sniper, he replied. Instead, they armed him with a mission. His expression held no regret, no mercy, no forgiveness. Some people learn too late. Never attack someone trained to dismantle threats completely. The security camera caught Rebecca's reflection as she faced another night alone, the name Sullivan's blazing above her head. 10 years of consequences had taught her what 3 tours in Afghanistan had taught Tom. Some enemies don't seek victory, only complete neutralization of threats. The regulars at Sullivan's might wonder about their owner's motives, but Tom understood the power of persistent consequences. In the end, his revenge wasn't just destroying his enemies. It was ensuring they lived long enough to watch him transform their weapons into his triumph. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.